Welcome to the Soul Success Summit, where we share guidance on how to succeed on the goal line and the soul line. My name is Kati Rosanen, and I'm your host. I love helping coaches and healers shine their light, share their gifts, and succeed on purpose. I'm here with Marie Elizabeth Malley, who is a relationship transformation expert and founder of Relationship Alchemy. Two-time TEDx speaker and host of Relationship Alchemy podcast. She helps women transform the patterns that get in the way of having the loving, intimate, and connected relationships they have always wanted. Drawing on her master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and over 20 years of working with clients, she teaches women how to show up as authentic leaders in their relationships and work instead of twisting themselves to fit in. And that sounds absolutely amazing. So let's find out more. Welcome to the Soul Success Summit, Maria Elizabeth. I'm super excited.
Thank you.
I'm
so happy to be here. Yeah.
Me too. And as we have connected during the last couple of years, there has been always just interest on the work and that you do, as well as you carry this loving presence. So we have now known maybe 2 years, and I just want to know a little bit more about your path, how you got to do the work that you do.
Well, I've been involved in healthcare and personal development for over 30 years, and it's been a kind of winding path as I've listened to what I really most enjoy doing, what I love doing. I transitioned from massage to traditional Chinese medicine. Then I became trained as a life coach in the early 2000s. Then I hit a period of burnout, actually, on patient care, on working with clients. So I took a 10-year break. I didn't know it would be a 10-year break. I didn't know if the desire would come back. But I spent those 10 years immersing myself in creative writing. I got an MFA in poetry. I published. I was really in the writing world completely. And then when my marriage ended a decade ago, I realized I've always had this kind of narrative thread, this clarity around my purpose and my work. But relationships have always been more challenging for me. And it became time to really dive in and do deep work to understand myself, the nature of relationships, what makes us tick. And through that, I actually attended a second coaching program thinking it was just for me, but we had to practice with each other. And I remembered how much I loved coaching and how much I actually did love working with people and my superpowers around that. So I began coaching again 7, 8 years ago, and really at that time decided to focus on our relationships. Number one, because they're very essential for our health. And number two, because we're just not taught how to do them well. It's the one area of life almost none of us have training in, because we're taught how to do our profession. We're taught all these things in school. We have coaches for our athletics, all of that. And then relationship, we're just supposed to know how to relate and communicate. And that's just not the case for most of us, because our parents didn't know how and they muddled along, and we inherited that, and here we are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm always fascinated of the people's journey, how they end up doing what they do. And I know now you mentioned in your bio that you mainly work with the women. But what you will be sharing today here is applicable for all genders, right?
Absolutely. It's what I'm talking about today is really learning how to navigate and change your relationship with your inner critic. So if you have any kind of critical voice in your head that can be hard on you, that can, that's trying to push you, but it comes out mean, doesn't matter the gender, we all tend to have it. That's what I'll be speaking to today. And I've used this work with the men that I work with too. Who mostly comes to me for relationship help is women, sometimes couples, but mostly women. So But yes, this work applies no matter what gender you are. And really, if you're an entrepreneur or you're anyone who's trying to create something in the world, like even as I was a writer primarily for 10 years, if you're in any kind of creative space, this session is going to really be game changing for you.
Yes. Yes, because when I was in a workshop where you were teaching this, I was like, whoa, you need to be here in this Soul Success Summit because that inner critic, the voice or whatever you call it, can often stop us on the tracks. Like we are coaches and healers, we have the calling in our heart, and then we are about to take the action, and then we hear this voice that might stop us on the tracks. It might sabotage our actions. And there is a way to overcome that, like being able to still go ahead. And in your opinion, and you mentioned a little bit of this as already, but why is this, well, I call it parts work, like this inner critic work,
Yep.
needed in order for us to succeed in business?
Well, because anything that's happening in your own head is going to be reflected in how you show up. So if you have a loud inner critic, and I also call it parts work, if you have a loud inner critic, or you have a lot of resistance, or you have a lot of fear, or you have a really intense judge, somebody judging you all the time in your head, it's going to affect how you present yourself. It's going to affect the actions that you take, the energy that you transmit. It affects everything. And so learning how to befriend your own brain is key for success in business, as well as relationship, really success anywhere in your life.
Yes. And now, before I give you the stage to teach, like just for inspiration for people, what has been one of the biggest breakthroughs that you have received from doing this parts work or friending your inner critic? What has been your own big breakthrough in this area?
Well, I'd say my biggest breakthrough was when I was in graduate school for poetry, for writing. And and my second semester of my first year of the program, I was with a teacher who I really admired. And I found myself getting incredibly insecure about my work. And we had to bring a poem every week to class to be workshopped by the group. And I found myself so stuck, I was unable to write. And I mean, tell me if you've experienced this, if you have to write a blog post or you have to write a social media post, anything like that. And if you get really critical or worried about what people are going to think, it locks you up. And so there I was in graduate school feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to fail out of this program because I'm not able to produce a poem to bring to class. And I ended up having to do direct parts work with myself, with my critic. And that led to the breakthrough in the relationship with the critic that I'm going to share with you today. I really got this in about 2007, 2008 was when I had this experience. And what I found was, as I turned to the critic with curiosity instead of rejecting it or hating it or wishing it were gone, like we tend to do with our more inconvenient feelings, as I turned to it with curiosity and really came into dialogue with it, I learned that it was just trying to help me be better. And over time, I was able to renegotiate the relationship because it doesn't want to get cut off. So I had to be generous and find another thing for it to do. And so the negotiation that happened was, would you please let me write the first draft? Like, just let me write. Could you sit aside and be quiet and let me just get the thing out? And then let me invite you in and help me edit. Because when we edit our work, if you're writing a social media post or a blog post or an article, when you're editing, you need to have a clear eye. You can't be so in love with your work that you can't see what's good and what's bad. or flat, maybe not bad, maybe not all the way bad, but just what doesn't work as well. And so having your critic be repurposed. So I basically repurposed it to discernment, to a critical eye, not criticizing me, instead looking with me at my work and being a critical eye to help me make my work better. And once we solidified that shift, I've had so much more freedom to write whatever I want to write, and then so much help in editing it. It just works so much better this way.
That is absolutely amazing. And now I'm sure all the listeners are like, how do I do that? Like, wouldn't that be wonderful? Like, if you could have that inner critic actually supporting you on the work that you do. So now I'm going to open up the stage for you, Maria Elizabeth, to share how this transformation is possible for all our listeners here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share about this because it forms a lot of what I do with clients. So there's a way to do parts work that's the most common way, which is you go to a practitioner or a therapist, somebody who's trained, and they host the conversation for you. So you close your eyes, you speak as if you're the inner critic, and then that person will facilitate a dialogue. But what I've found is you can also do this with yourself in your journal. And the key, so much of the key is having curiosity, being open, navigating your own resistance to facing the parts of yourself that maybe you wish weren't there. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I wish I didn't have a loud inner critic, but I do. It's just part of the deal of me. So learning to work with that is super key, and recognizing that just because you have a loud inner critic or resistance or fear or judge, whatever your loudest prevent your loudest blocking voice tends to be, very often it came from something or someone in your childhood, and you internalize that experience. So the first thing to recognize is that having these inner voices that maybe are hard on you or beat yourself up sometimes, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. So just start from there. The first step is to accept this is how it is. I internalized this voice and made it my own. That's okay. It's what we do as human beings, completely normal. So that's step one, is to come to a place of acceptance. Step two is to get curious about it. Desire to have a relationship. As long as you're resisting and hating the fact that you have this voice, it's going to be hard to talk to it. It's like, imagine anybody you're trying to have a conversation with. If they feel like you hate them, they don't really want to open up. They're going to be defensive. They're going to be closed. They're going to self-protect. Well, our inner voices are the same way. So it really, step two is you got to get curious, and you got to want to befriend whatever it is that's been getting in your way and making you sabotage yourself. Then from both those places of self-acceptance that you have these voices and curiosity to learn more about yourself and these voices, then you can sit down with your journal and start a conversation. And I recommend starting super simply with a sentence like, "Hi, inner critic. I'd love to get to know you better. Would you be willing to have a conversation with me?" And you write the conversation, you write that sentence out, that question in your journal, and then listen for an answer. Now, I happen to be someone who tends to hear. I'm clairaudient, so I tend to get information through hearing. If that's not you, if you're more visual, you might see your inner critic sitting on a chair in front of you and have the conversation like that. You might feel the critic where it lives in your body, and then you connect with that feeling. So just because I'm talking about words, because that's my primary way that I perceive, just know that if your primary way is visual or kinesthetic in your body, you can receive this dialogue like that. Just trust your own way of receiving. So you start with a question like that, write it down. Now, the second piece is, if it's hard for you to perceive immediately, you could try putting the pen in your non-dominant hand. I'm putting it in my left hand because that's my non-dominant hand, and write the answer with your non-dominant hand. Often that helps you access more subconscious material if that's easier for you that way. So that's another option. So you wait for an answer. If it says, yeah, I've been waiting. It's amazing what people's inner critics do. It's like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to talk to me, or yeah, I'm not sure. Are you going to hurt me? You know, like they can have all sorts of ways of responding. But basically, once you get a yes, then the next question that I suggest starting with is, I'd love to know, I'm curious, what do you want for me? And that for is key, because our assumption tends to be that the critic or any of the more inconvenient voices are against us. We assume that this voice that's tearing us down wants to tear us down. But that's not the case. It's like a horse that's about to run a race. They put the blinders on the horse when it's to run the race so that they can focus on the track. Our inner voices are like that. Your inner critic only sees one way to try to do something for you, and that's criticism, because that's its job. It's the only way it knows. It's not that it hates you, it loves you, it wants the best for you, and the only way it knows how to do that is through criticism. So once you get that understanding and you can get curious, so what is it you want from me? Then you can start to have a conversation. You'll often hear something like, I want you to be better. I want you to do great work. I want you to be successful. I want you to be, you'll get some answer usually along those lines. If you don't get an answer, you might need to do a little more trust building before it'll speak up. Think about other times you've had to build more trust in your life and start asking those kind of questions or sharing that kind of conversation with it until it begins to open up to you. And you'll 9 times out of 10, you're going to be surprised what you hear, because it's going to be more loving than you expected. And it's just a revelation every time it happens. It's a revelation like, what? This thing that hurts me wants something good for me? I can't believe it. Then once you feel like you're starting to develop a good relationship, and this can be in more than one sitting. So I'm not saying you have to sit for 2 hours and talk to this voice. You could do it in small chunks of time, 10, 15 minutes at a time, just connect and then get out. You know, I'll be back, and then leave the conversation, and then come back and chat a little more. It's not a pressure. Don't feel pressured that you have to nail all this in the first conversation. So then when you feel like you're developing a good rapport, you could start to move the conversation toward something like, hey, I get that you want this wonderful thing for me. I want that too. Thank you. That's awesome. However, the way that you're communicating with me is really hard for me to receive. Would you be open to communicating differently than you do now? And again, wait till you get a yes, till it feels good, and start to say, I'd love it if you would focus your attention. I'm giving you an example, but this can be in your own words. I'd love for you to focus your attention on what it is that I'm working on. Instead of criticizing me, would you be willing to be critical and editorial with the work, so that we can be a team to make my work better? I get that you want to make me better, and the way that I would love for you to help me be better is to help me make my work better. So you can propose a job change or an identity shift, you know, and that's usually like what happened for me. Was my inner critic was willing to become my discernment, my editor of my work, and very rarely will it turn on me. Now, it's not to say it never does. And when it does, I'm like, hey, hey, stop that. Like, we have an agreement. You agreed not to turn on me. We're on a team here. I need you to be critical about the stuff, not about me, okay? And I'll reaffirm the agreement that we've come to. Now, obviously, this is easier done with a guide, and you can do it on your own, even if you've never done it before. I've seen it happen. So take this work, learn it, practice it, play with it. And the key to remember is that everything inside of you, actually everything in life, but let's start with everything inside of you, is happening for you. It's happening as sometimes the challenge you need, and sometimes the success you need for you to see your next steps of growth. So if you're approaching your life with a growth-oriented mindset, my invitation is, when this critic pops up, when some difficult voice or some temptation to sabotage pops up, that you get curious, that you ask yourself, oh, how is this happening for me? How am I meant to expand here into a new quality? Maybe it's confidence, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's decisiveness. There's a new quality that the experience you're having, if it's hard or if it's great, that's inviting you to own and expand. So if you keep your attention on, oh, how am I meant to meet this situation? How am I meant to grow a certain quality that I want in my life? That keeps you on a growing edge, and it helps you not fall into getting stuck. If a launch doesn't go well, not taking it personally, that it means something about you or that something's wrong with you, that it didn't go well. You can stay, okay, this launch didn't go well. What am I meant to learn here? What am I meant to develop? More certainty, perhaps, more sharp marketing language, whatever it is, but it doesn't mean something about you as a person, because who you are as a person is fundamentally fine, is fundamentally meant to have what you want, is fundamentally lovable. And you may just have to adjust a few things for that to shine more clearly.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And now I also want to just challenge everyone who's listening. Get your journal out and just write that hello inner critic, because I want you to put this in action, because this
Yes.
amazing work. So you do need to take action. I want you to have that experience, and you can even tune in and go back to listen this again so that you get those prompts that help you, or just allowing that conversation flow. But I am super excited about this because I think this will be such a key for so many.
Oh, I have one more
Yeah.
reframe to share about it. Normally, what happens when that critic comes up, it's like, oh, shit, there it is. There's this disappointment, like, ugh, I'm being mean to myself. That sucks, right? I invite you to get excited. When your inner critic shows up, it means that you're challenging your limits. It means that you're doing something new that maybe you haven't done before. It means that you're stretching yourself. Our critic doesn't crop up when we're not doing anything important, right? Our critic tends to pop up when we're doing something that matters to us. So if your critic shows up, instead of getting disappointed, get excited. Like, oh, wow, this means I'm stretching myself. This means I'm going for it in my business. This means I'm taking risks. I'm taking chances. I'm pushing myself further than I went before. It's a sign that you're on the right track. It's not a sign of failure. So I want to make sure that you also get that and learn to approach your inner critic as a friend, as an ally, and there may need to be some negotiation before you can fully get that, which is why I taught you the journal process that you can do to help you get there.
Yeah, and I love that, because that might be interesting also to notice if what shifts already, like if you celebrate, if you actually are like excited when you hear your inner critic, that might be a shock in your system as well. Like, what?
It is exactly. And anytime you disrupt the usual pattern of your nervous system intentionally,
Mhm.
is a chance to go further, is a chance to actually have a new experience, is a chance to get to know. It's like magic can come through because you're not just in the regular train track that you always go down.
Yeah.
That's where something new becomes possible, and you can have a breakthrough, an insight about how to deliver your program might drop in, or how to talk about your work might come in because your mind is suddenly open in a new way because you've disrupted this pattern.
Wow. This definitely gave us a lot to think about. And also, I again say that put this in action. Do take the journal, write down hello inner critic and see what happens. Because that's how you're going to get the experience as well and start this transformation. And now, as we start wrapping up here, I'm asking, do you have a special final message that you would like to share?
Absolutely. So just like relationships, which is the area I primarily work with, I work with really how we show up everywhere, and especially in relationship. Just like business, it's one of the most powerful growth paths we have. So the more that we can learn to approach our businesses and our relationships as a mirror for where to place our attention and where we might need to do some work to expand our capacity there, the better it's going to go. So my invitation is really to allow your life to reveal to you where you're doing great, where you need to put some attention to be more powerful, to be stronger, clearer, faster, whatever it is you're wanting to be. And by allowing your life to show you as a mirror would what's here, not getting caught up in self-blame, not getting caught up in shame, but allowing it to be a kind of impartial mirror, oh, you just get to expand so much, and magic gets to happen because you're learning every day and you're growing every day. So that's my invitation, is to approach relationships and business and life as a mirror and meet yourself. And from there, expand.
Wow, thank you, thank you, thank you for the beautiful message and your beautiful share today, and your time as well, and all the work that you do in the world, because I think this is so needed and so supportive for so many. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching this Soul Success Summit. I'm sending you loads of love and loads of light. Stay well and stay tuned for the next interview. Bye for now.